Trilingual signboards are making it easier for people to travel within Colombo. The signs are an initiative of the Colombo Municipal Council introduced in 2010.
ඇත්තම ඒවා ඒ විදිහට විය යුතුයි. කොයි ප්‍රදේශයේත් මේක කොළඹ නගරේ සෑම තැනම දෙමළ ජාතීන් වැඩි වශයෙන් විසනවා නම් ඒ භාෂා වලින් ඒ බෝඩ් නාම පුරු දැන් අපි වෙන බස් එකක වුණත් ඒවා තියෙනවා නම් ගොඩක් හොඳයි. ඒගොල්ලන්ට පාස්වෙන් ඒවා මේ අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන්.
බෝඩ් එක ගාලා තිබ්බම කාටමුත් කියන්න බෑ ජාති ભેද වෙන් කරලා සිංහල විතරක් දාලා තියෙනවා කියලා. අර ඒකෙන් ගොඩක්ම මිනිස්සු අර දන්න ඔක්කොම එකට ඉන්නවා කියලා.
A closer look at the new trilingual signboards indicate that they are sponsored by private sector companies. The private sector's motivation to take part in the statewide policies for trilingual Sri Lanka aren't only limited to signboards, however. The private sector today is more aware of the need to communicate in all three languages to have the widest possible reach and attract business. Many institutions like Sampath Bank have already adopted a trilingual policy and are leveraging this to good advantage.
Customer of whatever the language he speak, he or she, the customer should be able to communicate in his or her own language, and the bank should be able to understand and service the customer instantly. So with a view of meeting that expectation, we have educated our staff throughout the branch network so that a customer who communicates with us communicates with us can do his transactions with the Sampath Bank in either Sinhala, English or Tamil. So we have our staff competent in all three languages. We have our documentation in most of the documentation in all three languages. So especially when we take the branches such as Olmua Street, Kotahena, Main Street, most of the customers in this area is of Tamil speaking. So therefore we do have Tamil speaking persons in these branches, so that they could read, write and speak Tamil. So therefore we have made arrangements for the public in especially these areas to come to Sampath Bank branches and do their transactions without any difficulty to them. So by providing this, we feel that we are contributing towards the development of the economy.
இப்போ எங்களுக்கு முதல்லையை விட இந்த காலத்தில் எங்களுக்கு இந்த எல்லா பேங்க்லையும் போனாலும் எங்கள்ட தமிழ் மொழியில் ஒரு மொழி பிரச்சனை இல்லாமல் எங்கள்ட பாஷையிலே நாங்கள் பேங்க் சம்மந்தப்பட்ட சகல அலுவலையும் எங்களுக்கு துரித கதியில் நிறைவாக செய்யக்கூடியதாக இருக்குது. இப்போ எந்த பேங்க்கில் போனாலும் எங்களுக்கு ஒரு பாஷை பிரச்சனையும் கிடையாது.
This ultimately will have a benefit, a profit to the company. So it is interconnected. The benefit of this going into the trilingual needs has a connection, but I personally don't believe that companies do this just to get a profit alone. When the private sector, a company in the private sector, especially our bank, embarks on an objective like this, it is more easier than doing a national task of in a country where there is a 20 million population. For the state to do a project it takes a much longer time. Comparatively, for a bank to complete a task like this is much easier if the dedication towards the task is there.
Well, in the government institution, not every institution is catering for all the languages. So very few actually. So if it is like this, it's much more convenient.
Regardless of the motive, many private institutions have stepped up to the challenge of strengthening its customer service levels by building a team which will soon be competent in trilingual communication. While the state has worked towards this goal in many spheres, certain vital institutions still remain inaccessible to sections of the public due to a language divide.
පොලිසිය විතරනේ හැම දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවකම ඒ සැලසෙන්න ඕන. මිනිස්සුන්ට මේ අවබෝධය ඇති කරන්න ඕන. මේ ಜಾති මේ භාෂා ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි එදා ඉඳලා මේ පැන නැගුණේ.
மிகவும் கஷ்டமாக இருக்கும் பாமர மக்களால் அந்த ஃபோம் எல்லாத்தையும் நிரப்பிக் கொள்ள முடியாமல் இருக்கும். அதனால் ஒரு லோயரை சந்தித்து வீணா காசு இல்லாமல் விரயமாகிக் கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள். இதனால் அவர்கள் தமிழ் மொழியிலேயே அந்த ஃபோமில் நிரப்பினா மிகவும் நல்லதாக இருக்கும்.
Attempts to address the language issue in Sri Lanka isn't new. With the Department of Official Languages established in 1956, functioning as a facilitator for the effective implementation of the language policy as enshrined in the Constitution of 1978.
විශේෂයෙන්ම අභියෝගය තමයි අපි කවුරුත් දන්නවා පහුගිය දීර්ඝ කාලයක් අපි යුද්ධයකට මුහුණ පාලා තිබ්බා. ඒ යුද්ධය නිසා අපි දෙපිරිස අතර විශේෂයෙන්ම සිංහල දෙමළ ජනතාවන් අතර විරසකයක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා, ඈත්වීමක් ඇති වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාව රජයේ කාර්යාලයකට ගියාම ඔහුට පුළුවන්කම ලැබෙනවා නම් තමුන්ගේ මව් භාෂාවෙන් සියලු කටයුතු කරගන්න එතනම ජාතික සමගිය ගොඩනැගීමේ මූලික අඩිතාලම ගොඩනැගිලා තියෙනවා. ජනාධිපති කාර්ය සාධන බලකායක් පිහිටවලා තියෙනවා. ජනාධිපති ලේකම්තුමා සභාපතිත්වය දරන්නේ කාර්ය සාධන බලකායේ. එයින් අධ්‍යාපන අමාත්‍යාංශය සමාජ ජාතික සමාජ ඒකාබද්ධතා අපේ අමාත්‍යාංශය ඒ වගේම මේ භාෂාව සම්බන්ධව කටයුතු කරන විවිධ ආයතන ඒකරාශී කරගෙන ඔවුන්ට නායකත්වය දෙමින් ඒකාබද්ධ වැඩසටහනකට ආයතන අතර පොදු එකඟතාවයන් නැති කරගනිමින් ඒ වගේම තීන ගැටලු වලට විසඳුම් ලබා දෙමින් ඊටාත්ම හොඳ නායකත්වයක් ඒ ජනාධිපති කාර්ය සාධන බලකායෙන් ලැබෙනවා මේ භාෂාව සම්බන්ධව තියෙන ගැටලු විසඳා ගැනීමට පහසුකම් සපයනවා වගේම සම්බන්ධීකරණයත් ඒ බලකාය හරහා සිද්ධ වෙනවා අද වෙනකොට.
I think the current situation at the base is very much favorable for having language rights for the citizens. So these are some sort of signs from the government side, the willingness of the government and the commitment. The constitutional provisions for usage of official languages as Tamil and Sinhala is a positive base. So we can work on that, right? But still government has to do much more, and also the private sector and the citizens. And most of the people tend to blame governments, but I rather reluctant to do that. Once the governments provide some constitutional provisions for the citizens and the private sectors, they should exploit that. First of all, the culture of respecting the other languages and the other people's concerns, that is one. Because that was sort of lacking for the last several years and we'll have to build it up.
ඇත්තටම මුල් වකවාන් වලදී මේ භාෂා ප්‍රශ්නය පිළිබඳව විවිධ මත ගැටුම්කාරී තත්ත්වයන් නැති වුණා. ඒ ගැටුම් වලදී පරණ වමේ පක්ෂ නිවැරදි ස්ථාවරකේ හිටියා මේ රටවල් දෙකක් ඇති වෙනවා එක භාෂාවක් වුණොත් භාෂාවන් දෙකක් වුණොත් එක රටක් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක ඒ කාලේ හිටියා. ඒ කාලේ විවිධ විරෝධතාවයන් තිබුණා මේ භාෂාවන් සම්බන්ධව. නමුත් අද වෙනකොට මම හිතන්නේ කවුරුවක්වත් මොන කිසිම දේශපාලන පක්ෂයක් මේ භාෂාවන් වල අයිතිවාසිකම් ආරක්ෂා කිරීම පිළිබඳව විරුද්ධ වෙනවා කියලා.
Well, now Sinhala people say about even we take the whole population is 20 million plus. So they also have a sort of a minority complex, though they are a majority in Sri Lanka. If you take the region, so the Tamil population is much more, several millions than Sinhala population. So they also have sort of built up a minority complex in their own. So that is also true. If we ignore that, we'll have to take it that also into account to have a credible solution for this. So that is also one of their grievances and concerns. We cannot say no, it is there. So let us face with that reality also.
Concerns among some members of the majority community that may have to be addressed. but a renewed commitment by the government that is welcome. A commitment that private institutions and citizens alike must play a more active role in taking advantage of for the successful implementation of the country's language policy.